Hello, I'm Sarah Story and welcome to the Voxwomen Cycling Show.
Coming up in this episode, we have Women's World Tour highlights from Flanders and Fleche Wallone. Alison Jackson has a Vox diary from her trip to Colorado. We visit Great Britain for the start of the Women's Road Series. But first up, we chat to Kasia Niewadoma, one of the rising stars of the peloton.
I got into the cycling because of my dad. He started riding a bike just as an amateur. And one day he just came to home and gave me a small racing bike and said, okay, tomorrow is a race, so we're gonna do it together. I won it, so that was a good thing that made me, okay, that's actually a pretty nice thing to do. When I was 16, I started doing it more often, more trainings, and I went for a European Championships in Ofida in Italy, and there I really realized, okay, I love the sport, I love the environment and everything around it, so I have to be good there and start doing it for real. And my first professional contract was with Rabobank. It was for 2014. Yeah, it was of course, my dream came true because I always knew Marianne Vos or Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, and I was, oh my goodness, they are riding for Rabobank, and I have a chance also to be one of the members of this team, so it was like a huge step for me. I was completely, blind, I would say, because I didn't know anything about racing. I didn't know what is to ride an echelon. I didn't know how to ride the cobbles. It was so many things to learn. And my favorite race, I think, is Giro, Bira, Fleche Wallone, Binda. I think I have a lot of them. Favorite racing memory? It's maybe, yes, funny and stupid of me. I remember the stage in Giro. At the top of the climb, I really wanted to get a bidon. Like, I was so thirsty, and I saw my Swanee, but I was just in the middle of the peloton, and it was so difficult to go to the right, but I was so desperately thirsty, so I just ride to the right, and then of course crash. So at the top with a crash, and then trying to follow the peloton on the downhill. So that was not smart of me. My family is really supportive. They really help me in every situation. They want me to be the best. I think like every family wants that the member is the best. They are so enthusiastic, and of course would like to see every my race, but it's not so easy to go just to another part of Europe and cheer me. Yeah, when I'm off the bike, for sure the most time I spend with my sister, with my friends, just to hanging out, going for a nice fancy dinner with a good clothes, not only the sports suit, but nice dress, and that makes a special feelings.
Hi, I'm Alison Jackson. I ride for Team 2016 Ride Biker, an American team, but I'm Canadian, eh? I'm staying at a host house in Colorado for a couple of weeks. I hope they don't mind I'm using their dishes scrubber to clean my shoes.
My husband and I travel to a lot of different places for bike racing, so we have to discover a lot of new routes. So how I do it is looking on Strava and stealing everybody's QOMs. That's very un-Canadian, like. Sorry. Heh heh. Whose ride am I gonna poach today?
Ah, the Sugarloaf Climb. That reminds me of a Flight of the Conchords song about sugar lumps.
I see you checking out my junk, looking at my humps, checking out my sugar lumps. Well, I made it. Top of one of the big climbs in Boulder. Flagstaff, super Flagstaff. Climbed all the way to the mailboxes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my Voxwomen diary that I made on my trip to Boulder, Colorado. Voxwomen.
Hi, my name's Nikki Juniper, captain of Team Full Deco Boost, and these are my 5 top tips for setting up your race bike before a race. Tip number 1, If it isn't broken, don't fix it. So no major changes to your bike the day or morning before race day. Everybody panics, but if it's been okay on the lead up, i.e. positioning, saddle height, everything like that, then leave it. I can guarantee if you start changing things, then it will affect your performance. Tip number 2, if there are any problems with your bike, don't throw it to the mechanic 10 minutes before the start line. Okay, be prepared. So tip number 2 is always be prepared. So check over your gears. If they're jumping, if you're not happy, if your chain needs lubing, then this needs to be done the night before, or in plenty of time before the race. Tip number 3, your tyre pressure. Okay, weather is always changing, so a tyre would normally say run pressure of 110. If it's raining and very slippery, you might want to drop that to 100, maybe below, depending on the size of rider you are. If you have too much air in it, then you're going to suffer on the corners because you'll probably end up on the floor, or you'll be slipping and falling at some point. Tip number 4 is your gear selection. So know your circuit, okay, do some prep. Look at the race profile. If it's really flat, you can probably just have an 11 or a 12.25. If you're going up mountains and you're stuck at 12.23 on the back, unless you're super strong, you might be struggling when it gets to the peak of the climb. And tip number 5, not necessarily a bike setup, but something you should have on your bike at all times is a water bottle with fuel in. If you're racing for anything over than an hour, then you will need more than water in your bottle. This is generally something we're finding with a lot of juniors and youths that are coming through, that they're going out training and long races with just water, which is all fine, but when it goes over an hour, 2-3 hours, you need to put some energy back into your body. So if that's a zero tablet or even some cordial with a pinch of salt, you need something in that bottle to get you through that race, and you need to eat as well. If you're not going to eat, then you definitely need a high concentrated carbohydrate drink in your bottle.
The next event in the Women's World Tour calendar was the ever popular Tour of Flanders. Huge crowds lined the start in Oudenaarde as 141 kilometres and 10 brutal climbs awaited the riders. It was a nervous start. There were a couple of crashes and a few attacks, but they were soon brought back under control by the peloton. The tough cobbled climbs split the peloton, with just 11 riders left contesting victory. The crowds lining the course got their chance to cheer on the likes of UCI World Tour leader Chantal Blaak and world champion Lizzie Armistead. Emma Johansson of Wiggle High Five attacked, but she was marked by Armistead. The duo opened up a gap, while Elisa Longo-Borghini, Chantal Blaak, Ellen van Dijk, Megan Garnier, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Kasia Niewadoma, Annemiek van Vleuten, Claudia Lichtenberg and Rossella Ratto were forced to chase. It was a nervous game of cat and mouse. Johansson versus Armistead, and the breakaway versus the chasers in the closing stages of the race. Van Vleuten led the chase over the crest of the climb, desperately trying to close the gap. In the final kilometre, the gap narrowed to just 9 seconds, and Armistead and Johansson were forced to start their sprint early. It was Armistead's bike throw at the line that earned her her third World Tour victory and secured the leader's jersey.
But it was a strange race, with just 2 in the front. We really had to commit to chasing, and I didn't leave anything for the sprint, so it was a really close sprint. Emma's fast, so I didn't underestimate her.
Thanks for watching. We will be back for more after the break.
Welcome back to the Voxwomen cycling show.
While there's been plenty of racing in mainland Europe at the UCI Women's World Tour, here in the UK we've been at the first 2 rounds of the British Cycling Women's Road Series to bring you the latest action.
Really excited to be somewhere different, on closed roads, riding a mountain. We haven't got anything like that over in the UK, I guess. So yeah, really excited. Bit nervous, apprehensive, but I'm looking forward.
It will be challenging. It's going to be pretty brutal on the mountain, I think. It's going to be quite windy up there and quite cold, but it will produce a worthy winner.
There was a small field at the Manx International Grand Prix, the first of 8 rounds in the British Cycling Women's Road Series. But there was no shortage of strong riders, and it was going to be a tough day in the saddle as they raced over the Isle of Man TT Snaefell mountain course. The course needs little introduction, having hosted the legendary international motorcycle race since 1911. The race started and finished on the coast in Douglas and climbed to over 400 metres high on the famous and exposed Snaefell Mountain Road. The riders raced 2 laps of the course and 121 gruelling kilometres lay between them and the finish line. There was a flurry of attacks from Starley Racing, but they were soon brought back by the other riders. Kimberly Ashton of Casp Racing and Jenny Hudson of Fusion Racing Team Phelan enjoyed a strong breakaway. Fusion Racing Team Phelan had a powerful presence led by their captain Hudson, while Team Ford EcoBoost, a new team on the road this season, also boasted a strong lineup. This included 2014 and 2015 Women's Road Series champion Nikki Juniper and 2015 runner-up Charlene Joyner. In the closing stages of the first lap, the breakaway was caught by a strong group of riders, but that was not the end of Ashton's day. She attacked with just over 10 kilometres to go, opening up a gap of 1 minute 30. She extended her lead as she raced to the line, winning comfortably. Juniper won the sprint for second spot and Elizabeth Steadman finished third.
That was got to be the toughest race I've ever done. That mountain it's brutal. It was a small field, but I tell you what, there's really strong girls in there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I was going for a top 10 and when you see some of the names sort of on the start list, you think, oh, I'll be lucky to get a top 10, so to win it, it's special.
The second race in the British Cycling Women's Road Series was the Alexandra Tour of the Reservoir, and the weather was unseasonably cold.
Any race is always slower in the wet anyway, let alone with the risk of ice and snow. I think people can be really cautious, especially start the season, which makes it more fun for people that are a bit braver.
Yeah, I think it is fairly technical, and obviously the conditions are going to add to that, and the size of the group too. So it's just about being safe and trying not to sort of collide into anyone and trying to stay as safe as possible.
81 riders took to the start line for stage 1 of the Alexandra Tour of the Reservoir. Conditions were brutal. The start was delayed for an hour due to ice and frost, and the race was shortened from 12 to 10 laps. Though the weather was cold, the race was fast and furious from the start. Drop cycling were a welcome addition to a strong field for the second race of the series, and the team, who have a UCI licence, were often at the front of the peloton. The bunch worked well together for 9 laps, with relatively few attacks on the technical circuit of Derwent Reservoir. It all came down to a bunch sprint along the reservoir wall, which was a long and very exposed drag right up to the finish line. Grace Garner of Podium Ambition crossed the line first, marginally ahead of Melissa Lowther of Team Breeze.
Well, I knew if it was a sprint I had a good chance, like I've got a good kick, but yeah, I kicked again with about 20 metres to go out the saddle. My legs were burning, but yeah, I think it was like 15 centimetres or something, really close like that.
How does it feel to be wearing pink?
Yeah, it's nice, it goes with my kit, so that's good, yeah.
The sun breaking through the clouds on day 2 was a welcome sight as the women prepared for a longer and more arduous stage. On the final lap, an elite group of 12 formed, including Alice Barnes, Maddie Campbell, Nikki Juniper and Lucy Shaw. But it was Alice Barnes, who had already taken the Queen of the Mountains title, who attacked on the final climb to take the victory. Juniper of Team Ford EcoBoost finished second, and Shaw of Drop Cycling finished third.
I was just looking for the stage win today on quite a tough course to see how I'm going into the rest of the season.
Her second place was enough to earn Juniper the overall victory.
I'm so happy. Coming in today, I knew it was a bigger field, a tougher field, so I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but the girls were absolutely amazing. After yesterday, Charlene getting third, and then today coming second to Alice Barnes, who's just an outright class rider, and then to get the overall, I got really emotional on the podium, so yeah, really pleased.
Now, let's get back to the World Tour. This race is characterised by one thing and one thing only, this. Here's our look at Fleche, Wallone.
Yeah, of course, it's a really exciting race and it's great just to be a part of it. It's a really tough race as well, but yeah, hopefully we can be in the mix a little bit today and anticipate some of the big teams, and I think that with a bit of luck we can come away with a good race.
Today, that murder hoist, surely that suits you.
Yeah, I mean it suits a lot of girls, and some girls in our team better than me, I think, at the moment. I'm pretty tired and I'm ready for a bit of a rest after a tough spring, so it's kind of shifting focus now towards Rio recovery, and then obviously work my way up to the Olympics. I'm focused on doing a good job today for the team, so don't watch me.
Well, of course, it's good to have some experience in this race and to know how to handle the Muur, but still it's all about shape, timing and how you feel in the final, and today is going to be a really, really tough race. It's a long distance, and well, we have a strong team, so we can play different cards, and of course I hope to be there in the final and to play a role.
The biggest ever women's peloton started Fleche, Wallone, one of the hardest one-day races in the women's calendar. The lineup included World Tour leader Lizzie Armistead, although it was perhaps not her day. The Boels-Dolman rider was worn out after a busy start to the season. 137 kilometres and 11 brutal climbs lay between the riders at the start line and the final epic climb up the Murderhoy. The Murderhoy is a formidable, fearsome climb. It's 1.3 kilometres long at an average of almost 10%, with peaks of up to 24%. In the final stages of the race, Anna van der Breggen of Raboliv and Evelyn Stevens of Boels-Dolmans had broken clear. Van der Breggen was looking to defend her Fleche Wallone title of last year and end Boels-Dolmans' dominance. The Dutch team had won all 5 Women's World Tour races so far. But Stevens had won on the Murderhoy in 2012, so both knew how to race it. The crowds cheered them up some of the steepest parts of the Muur as Stevens tracked Van der Breggen's every move. But the chasers weren't far behind, led by Katrin Garfoot of Orica AIS, Kasia Niewadoma riding for Raboliv, and Elisa Longo Borghini of Wiggle High Five. As Stevens gritted her teeth in pain, Van der Breggen attacked once again and opened up a vital gap. The Dutch rider powered away and a desperate Stevens could do no more. Van der Breggen had successfully defended her title and earned Raboliv their first victory of the UCI Women's World Tour.
I did also at the bottom attack, and I came with Evelyn together, and yeah, I felt good today, so I thought I go through, and if Kasia comes back, that will be really good because she can handle a climb like this. And if not, I really have to drop Evelyn, and I try the best I can. And the coach said at 150 meters, you have to go now, just go and don't look back. And yeah, incredible to cross the line here for the second time as the first one, so that's really a big dream. I think a race like this suits our team really, really well, and we really, would go for the win. It was the only thing today we look out for, and if it works out, it's great. And the next race will be a big battle again, but it's nice to finally have that victory.
Stevens finished 8 seconds behind Van der Breggen, with Megan Garnier of Boels Dolmans completing the podium.
Hi everybody, it's Kasia Niewadoma here. I really hope you enjoyed my interview, and thank you so much for watching Voxwomen Cycling Show.
That's all we have time for. On the next Voxwomen Cycling Show, we'll be heading to the Golden State to bring you our look at the Amgen Breakaway from Heart Disease Tour of California, empowered with SRAM, as well as much more from the world of women's cycling.